This is Today 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt, voice of the people.
Every day on Today 95.1 FM, there's always an opportunity to comment and air your views on our various programs. It's not just about us. It's about you, your opinion, and your voice.
President, don't you think that it's time to step down, sir?
Be part of the story, the gist, reactions, intrigues, and the news.
President Neil Patrick Harris has called for greater regulation.
Give us a feedback or join the conversation on Twitter at TodayFM951. Our Facebook address is Today95.1 FM, or join us on the number 0701 933 9962. That's our WhatsApp application. Be informed, be educated, and have fun. We are Today 95.1 FM, voice of the people.
Wake up to today's quest.
Wake up.
All the news and information you need in one go. Get started with the best of sports, lifestyle, analysis, and Annie.
Can you feel it? Can you feel it?
Can you feel it? Wake up to today's quest with Annie on Today 95.1 FM. From 6 to 11 a.m. weekdays. Fantastic.
After 8, you're listening to Today 95.1 FM, Voice of the People. Good to have you all here joining us now for the newspaper review. And the newspaper review, of course, is one of the very first, if not the first segment of today's quest. And right after that, we have the opinion pool and then Real Talk. So stick with us as we'll take you places this 20th day of June 2019. Studio time is 12 minutes after 8. It's rather a very wet day though, but still making the best out of it. So we'll start with the Vanguard newspaper. In the Vanguard newspaper, we have kidnappers on rampage, hijacked bus. NGF to make stands on state police known soon. That's breaking. NGF to make stands on state police known soon. And they also have 9th NAS won't be rubber stamp. That's what Lawan is assuring people. It says that 9th NAS won't be a rubber stamp. Lawan assures. Obasanjo owes Nigerians answer on June 12th, Democracy Day. That's from the presidency. Obasanjo owes answers on June 12th, Democracy Day. And then we also have in the Vanguard newspaper, kidnapped ex-minister's son and dad thank Nigerians and Buhari. Kidnapped ex-minister's son and dad thank Nigerians and Buhari. You also have, you can't license preachers, court tells El Rufai. You can't license preachers, court tells El Rufai. All the stories you have from the Vanguard newspaper. I'm trying to see if there's still something else I'm missing out here that we should be sharing. All right, so let's get to the stories proper. Kidnapped ex-minister and father thank Nigerians and Buhari. You get that in the Vanguard. Mr. Dayo Adewale, son of the former Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale, who was kidnapped on Tuesday by 4 unknown gunmen, has thanked Nigerians, President Muhammadu Buhari, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, security agencies, and traditional rulers after he regained freedom. Dayo was kidnapped at about 6 p.m. at gunpoint on his farm in Iroko, Akinyele local government area of Oyo State. The Oyo State Commissioner of Police, Shina Olukolu, confirmed the release of the minister's son on Wednesday evening in an interview in Ibadan. Olukolu said the information he got was that the victim had regained freedom and had been reunited with his family. The commissioner said the only suspects arrested so far in connection with the incident were 3 of the victim's farm workers. He, however, gave an assurance that more updates on the incident will be made public soon. The police had been on the trail of the kidnappers since Tuesday and had already recovered the vehicle used in the incident. Well, it's a good thing he was there for as much as 24 hours, and that means they were able to facilitate his release, whatever manner that is. It's good to have him back with his family. But why this feels like it's a little sour is the fact that there isn't much lead going on here. According to the police, it's just 3 of the farm workers that so far have, are being interrogated in line with or in questioning their actions, perhaps, with his kidnap. Emmanuel Ndukwe, good morning. Good to have you here.
Good morning, Annie. Good morning, Nigeria. I think certainly if you have to engage in such an issue, you have to start from within. I think that's the angle of bringing in those in farm work, those is farm workers in the farm. But I hope they are not just innocent, because you see, this kind of process will always bring the idea of start within, and let them also widen the scope of the for the search, so that they will also bring in some other collaborators, even if some of them in the farm are culpable. Again, the angle of thanking the president and Osinbajo, I do not understand, because even the police commissioner, perhaps that mobilized people to make a few arrests as done, I didn't hear that he thanked him.
I'm sure it's on his release.
Okay, on
so
his
maybe
release?
The prayers of everybody else. Because, I mean, what is the Nigerians' work here, if not that perhaps they prayed for him and then he was able to secure his release?
I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. If he has said, and I thank Nigerians.
He did mention that. He says he thanks Nigerians and Buhari.
Okay. Maybe because he's the president, they just want to project him. And because you can't deny that he's the president.
No, he is. You can't license preachers. That is a court judgment for Kaduna State concerning the need to license religious preachers in the state. The court tells Rufai, you can't do that. The Kaduna State High Court, presided over by Justice Hajaratu Gwada, yesterday declared that the state government has no right to screen and issue licenses to religious preachers in the state. The court, however, asserted that the government has the right to regulate religious activities in the state. The judgment was delivered in a suit filed by the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, PFN, challenging the constitutionality of the bill on the regulation of religious preaching in the state. The bill, which was introduced by Governor Nasser El-Rufai in the early part of the first tenure, attracted controversy with both Muslims and Christians opposed to it. Despite being challenged by the PFN, the State House of Assembly went ahead and passed the bill few hours to the expiration of its tenure. The PFN had argued that subjecting preachers to screening by government agency was an infringement on fundamental human rights, and asked the courts to declare that setting up a committee for screening and licensing of preachers as provided in the bill was a violation of their rights. In her judgment, the judge noted that the bill does not seek to abolish the rights of applicants, as fundamental human rights was not absolute, but noted that sections 6 and 9 of the bill, which seek to screen and license preachers, violate the constitutional rights of the applicants. Counsel to the PFN, Sonny Akani, expressed satisfaction with the judgment, saying in Christianity, not only ordained pastors preach, every Christian is commanded to go ye into the world and preach the gospel. Section 38(1) of the Nigerian Constitution allows everybody to propagate his religion in teaching, in observance, and in action. So when you say pastors should be licensed, you have infringed on their rights. This is why the court agreed with us that Section 6 of the bill is against the constitutional rights of PFN. Counsel to the state governor, he's one of the respondents in the case, and Lucy Usman, however, expressed dissatisfaction with the judgment. Usman, who is the director of civil litigation in the State Ministry of Justice, said he will appeal the judgment.
Well, let him go ahead and appeal. I think the provision is there for everybody to explore and exploit. But then I think there are two issues there, that of regulating it, but not issuing license. Because issuing license totally means these are the areas you can't cross here. But regulating, I wanted to question it immediately until I heard that one of regulating it. Because if somebody in the guise of being a Christian or a pastor comes out and is making seditious preaching and all that, yes, I think government has a right to regulate such. But to issue license, I don't know what they were thinking about. Are they breaching their freedom?
You have the right to preach. You don't have the right to preach.
Well, let them appeal, as they said.
You know, funny enough, when it comes to human rights, it's a very dicey thing. Because at what point, because I know that rights are not absolute, and that the freedom that is given one does not mean that you go ahead and do anything that might cause greater damage to the larger public. I'm looking at some other nations, African nations, who had enough with, some religious houses and just clamped down on them outrightly and said, look, we will not have this sort of preaching style going on here, or we won't have this sort of religious activities going on here. It affects the overall good of the country. In those cases, then, what happened?
I think, like I said, it borders on sedition.
Or if their constitution doesn't cover that area.
That one is another angle of possibility. Yeah. But then, even if the constitution does not cover it, there are certain things the constitution doesn't cover, but that is known to be anti-people. If, for instance, government finds out that whatever these people are preaching, this particular religious group is seditious, at least by the understanding of government, they can clamp down on that organization. They can, but it doesn't make it right, because they will still go to court, for instance, like these people went to court, and the court has said, please remove that your license, but you can regulate. But you know that government is always on top. Government can expand that regulating. And
I was thinking of
anything at all you say, the regulator says.
I was thinking of the most popular slightly religious actions that I would think of, maybe the Guyana tragedy, where a preacher was able to convince his followers that they needed to die to go to this place.
Yeah.
And they followed him along. They all took the poison and all died. Mm-hmm. I can imagine, if that sort of thing, you knew that
that pastor also died.
He was part of the people who took. They're all going to a greater place.
Is that right?
But the point here I'm trying to make is that, you can't have those kind of people in your midst. Preaching,
no, you can't.
Preaching those kind of things and say, well, I can't stop them.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So, whichever way you look at it, when that particular preaching is looked upon as being anti-people, and government has every right to regulate. Even in regulating it, you can stop it completely. Not only regulating it.
But don't just say you're giving license.
No.
All right.
Don't give license. Are you...
UK government terrorists embrace ranching to stop influx of foreign herders. Autumn tells federal government. Says here that embrace ranching to stop influx of foreign herders. Autumn tells federal government. Governor Samuel Autumn of Benue State has attributed the exclusion of Benue from the list of 24 states published by the United Kingdom's government facing the prospect of terror attacks to the grazing law, which has restrained movement of armed herdsmen into the state and largely restored peace in the various communities. He urged the federal government to emulate the Benue example by outlawing open grazing and embracing the ranching to check the influx of armed herdsmen from other parts of Africa who engage in banditry and kidnappings and constitute themselves into security threat to the collective well-being of Nigerians. Autumn, who spoke yesterday in Makodi when he received the report of Dr. Iocha IU-led transition committee, said the people in the state were enjoying relative peace because the grazing law was in place and security personnel are doing their best to ensure that there was no breach of the peace.
It's good to recognize that the security operatives are doing their best, coming from Autumn himself. But I think that anti-grazing law, even though it may have its internal problems because of some who will disagree with it and all that, but I think it goes a long way to making peace relative one setting. And that's what Autumn is saying. And I think it's maybe because of these clashes that make the UK to issue this kind of red alert to some states. Are they 21 or which states? So they all should be done, indeed, to make sure that peace reigns. Because when another country starts issuing a red alert to another country, something is seriously wrong. They are not just, after all, the freedom existed there that you should go anywhere at all. But now your home country is warning you of certain states. Then it's not just for the fun of it. Right. Something is wrong.
All right, there you have that now. Let's move on from that story. UK government terror list embrace ranching to stop influx. As Autumn tells federal government. And then we also have here Obasanjo has questions to answer over June 12th. That's in the Vanguard newspaper. Obasanjo has answers to give. Owes Nigerians answers on June 12th, Democracy Day. That's what the presidency is saying. The presidency on Wednesday night said the former president Olusegun Obasanjo received invitation for the celebration of June Day on June 12th. Recall that there was no former president or past head of state that attended the Democracy Day, that over 20 world leaders and members of the diplomatic corps in attendance at the Eagle Square in Abuja. Former President Obasanjo was quoted to have said he did not receive any invitation for the ceremony. But the presidency, in a statement by the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Madam Garba Shehu, said that the former president cannot sustain his claims that he did not receive any invitation. According to him, the former president, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, owes an answer to Nigerians and his absence from the 2019 presidential inauguration and Democracy Day celebration, because the claim that he was not invited or did not receive an invitation cannot be sustained. Since the claim was first made, elements in the polity that have deliberately and consistently been trying to lead the country towards polarization have cashed in on it, throwing all manner of rubbish at the Buhari presidency. The fact remains that the secretary to the government, Boss Mustafa, wrote on May 16, 2019, to His Excellency Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR, former president, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Agbeluoba House, Quarry Road, Ibara, P.O. Box 2286, Abeokuta, Ogun State. The invitation was sent to Chief Obasanjo's known forwarding address, detailing out all the major events, and the invitation cards were delivered by a reputable courier company as confirmed. The receipt of the letter and invitation cards as delivered by the courier company was confirmed by Mr. Taiwo Ojo, the long-standing personal secretary to the former president. If in the circumstance, Chief Obasanjo did not see or receive the letter and invitation cards as published by Vanguard newspaper and several other news platforms, then the former president needs to find out what is happening with his own secretariat.
I think that's very correct because of all that they've said there. If it went that way, truly, he was sent the invitation and all that. But it is a different thing also whether he received it or not. But like they said, or let me put it, suggested, I think he should check within his secretarial administration to find out, because this is very easy. Even that particular courier company that delivered it, somebody signed for it. And if that person is still there, very easy to pick. Why did the Chief Obasanjo now come out to say he did receive it? So let him go back. They've also given a detailed analysis, who wrote and how it was sent. So let him find out. But as for saying he owes Nigerians...
well, that's the answer for June 12th, why he didn't come on that day.
Well, I don't know. He may decide not to come.
All right. Then he's done Nigerians. I decided not to come, not lie that
that he didn't receive. No, what I'm only saying, and that angle, perhaps if he didn't receive, he will only say so. But now that his eyes are opened, the scales are falling off, let him go back and find out who held that particular invitation in his Good.
Because they say his personal assistant was actually the one that signed in for that when it arrived by the courier.
So personal assistant, why didn't you give it to me?
Story.
Chief of Passenger, go and ask.
Kidnappers on rampage, hijack passenger bus. That's in the Vanguard newspaper. It says, following the abduction of Dayo Adewole, son of immediate past Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewole, on Tuesday, Oyo State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Shina Olukolu, and scores of policemen yesterday stormed the farm where he was whisked away by his abductors. This came as armed bandits also on Tuesday hijacked a passenger bus at Evoku Community Access of the East-West Road in Emoha local government area of River State. Yusuf Larson Dauda, biological brother to former Zamfara All Progressive Congress APC governorship candidate Dauda Lawan, kidnapped by bandits recently, however, regained freedom yesterday. This is even as Taraba State chapter of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, yesterday appealed to the State Commissioner of Police and Commanding Officer 20 Model Battalion, SETI, to ensure that justice was done regarding innocent lives lost to attacks by gunmen who invaded two communities in the state on Monday and Tuesday, killing no fewer than 12 persons. The former minister's son, Adewole Jr., was kidnapped on his farm in Iroko village, Afigio local government area near Ibadan, Oyo State, by some gun-wielding bandits. Dayo was, however, released last night. It could not be confirmed if a ransom was paid or not. To secure his release from the kidnappers, Vanguard gathered that conventional security agents and local hunters are on the trail of the kidnappers who are yet to contact his family for the ransom as of press time last night. But of course, he's been released. Also involved in the desperate search. Okay, this was before his release. Emmanuel, I think what the writer here was trying to capture was the fact that all across the nation, the spate of kidnapping, especially thanks to bandits, is on the increase. But I particularly would like to concentrate on the Southwest region because, unfortunately, I have had more of these gory stories coming from that region. It just seems as if that Oyo, Ondo, Osun, Ogun axis it's just being taken over by bandits who are kidnapping from the highway and in some cases coming into the farms to kidnap too.
Well, you remember, I think not too long ago, the Yoruba elders came out and said that that area or so was under siege, or some other person said that, but Yoruba
insecure.
Good. And the police came out and said it wasn't that way. We were arguing how the people who owned it. Yes. Well, the truth now is that I really don't know what is going on because truly, if people tell you the stories of how these banditry, like Chief Okere said while here, that is another name or maybe
occultism.
Good of cultism and all that. So I don't know why it is going that way on that southwest, and well, maybe the way Boko Haram is also going in the northeast, the same thing. But let it not turn to Boko Haram in the southwest and Boko Haram in the northeast. Perhaps the other side will also embrace their own someday. It's not the best. I wouldn't know whether federal government, maybe there is no this issue of personnel, the number of personnel in the army and all that. But I believe we can, if government wants, they can still overwhelm them. Only keeping a few, but maintaining that they stay somewhere regularly. Because it's only flashpoints you should focus on always. Where you now, for instance, you dislodge, you move out from that place, then it becomes porous again and people can infiltrate and wreak havoc the way they are doing. I think the elders, if you listen to that particular story you read now, they said the local hunters.
Yes.
Yeah, because I've been hearing much about them.
The local
that,
hunters.
Yes, that the Yoruba area, if local hunters join something, you will achieve exactly what you want. No. So maybe that's why they hastily released that.
They need to join them. Dr. Emmanuel Iroyanama, chartered arbitrator, mediator, and management consultant and socio-economic commentator, is here with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Annie. Good morning, Rivers people.
So we have this story on kidnappers on rampage, and it seems as if they're taking over everywhere. Recently, there was one on Emoha where they took an entire bus. Southwest regions just can't stop hearing stories of bandits coming onto farms or staying on the highway and then abducting people. What's going on? What do you think is going on here?
For me, the truth is very simple. One is the fact that we've not addressed the reason for banditry properly. The second is the fact that, take the case of the Southwest. Okay, the second is the fact that our approach to resolving it, you don't do one thing several times, you're failing and you're continuing, you think you will win, as it were. If you take the case of Southwest, you will agree with me that what you're experiencing may be the issue of pursuing the tips from Lagos State off, and so all of them have just decided to relocate when the fight got tough, relocate and then entered into the sister states very close and operating very freely there. As to looking at the approach, how many do you want to kill? You may succeed only when you know the exact number that are involved in it. If you like, increase the present security personnel by 2. You may only end up having some of the same bandits recruited into the security system, because the real truth why you have banditry is the fact that we have several jobless persons outside there.
Exactly.
You have several jobless persons outside there who have seen crime as an easy
Source of
income, as it were. And so there's nothing you will tell anybody. In fact, if you find some of the criminals today, they are not as we used to know them before. These are well-educated persons. Some of them are graduates of universities that are involved in these crimes. And I wondered how you want to actually work on it, except, and one thing I don't like doing is to say one tier of the government. It's all the tiers of government sitting down to say there is problem. Everybody in this country sitting down to say there's a problem and then asking ourselves how to address it. The mere sending of security personnel to go and man roads or begin to comb bushes, you keep combing from now till the kingdom come. You may never have total success.
Real shame indeed. Well, that story is in the Vanguard newspaper. It says kidnappers on rampage, hijack passenger bus. And then we have here in the Vanguard newspaper too, this other story. 9th NAS won't be rubber stamp. That's what Lawan is assuring Nigerians, that the 9th National Assembly wouldn't be rubber stamp. Senate President Ahmed Lawan yesterday said that the leadership of the 9th Assembly will not be a rubber stamp as being speculated. He said he had never seen a National Assembly that had rubber stamp leadership, and that his own leadership will not be different. The Senate President, who said his election was supported by opposition members, promised to do everything possible to ensure a harmonious Senate for the overall interest of the country. Speaking with State House correspondents after meeting behind closed doors with Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the presidential villa Abuja, Senator Lawan said that the National Assembly under his leadership will ensure that there was a cordial relationship with the executive arm of government. However, he said the leadership of the 9th Assembly will not compromise its oversight function on other arms of government. Speaking on the rubber stamp issue, Lawan, whose emergence was facilitated by the executive arm, said a parliament is not a primary school or a secondary school where you have a headmaster or principal that would dictate to his students. Parliament is an aggregate or an assemblage of people that have equal status. Being elected as Senate President does not mean I am the boss of other senators. I am simply to coordinate and aggregate views and lead debates. Whoever is the majority, that will be the decision of the Senate appropriately and accordingly. But one thing I must tell you is that while they desire to remain sufficiently on our track, we'll ensure that oversight function is properly carried out so that we will cooperate fully and give total support to the administration to ensure that there is good governance. There is no need for any fear that we will be rubber stamp National Assembly. Perhaps and probably with time, Nigerians will come to see that what we desire and what will happen by the grace of God will be a working relationship that endears the entire administration and government to the people of Nigeria. So there's no cause for alarm. He says he's never seen a rubber stamp assembly before, and he's not going to be any different.
It's good he's not seen it before, and I don't think any assembly is elected to be a rubber stamp one. He said it all, but I hope he does exactly, and with his colleagues, exactly all that he said, because I always say, yes, is it good for the executive and the legislature to be at loggerheads? It's not good. I think let it be a working relationship and let them not compromise in the areas they should do something, as he stated. But it's only when there is a deviation that whatever that may not benefit Nigerians entirely, and that they are maybe doing exactly as suggested, let's say from the executive, Nigerians will say you have not turned against what you stated, that you were not going to be a rubber stamp. You are now, if there is any other thing, worse than being even a rubber stamp.
Right. What do you think here?
If I heard him correctly, what he said was that he has never seen a rubber stamp National Assembly. And if we look at the history of Nigeria, I doubt if there have been any real one that could be said to have been a rubber stamp, real one. I chose my words correctly.
Really?
I chose my words correctly. So look at me, will not solve the problem. Real National Assembly that was rubber stamp.
My goodness.
But having said that,
when we say rubber stamp, what do we mean? Obviously, we don't mean that.
Rubber stamp means the persons there do not have a say. And if you want me to give you examples, I'll give you examples. If he had said there were no assemblies, I would have.
Usually, when we say rubber stamp, we expect that it is because that the issues they would rather circumvent, the issues they would not want to deliberate on, the issues they would pretend is not happening because they don't want to go that way. Maybe it might hurt the executive. But of course, you will still see them do other activities that makes them look like they're wholesome.
Well, if you, as I said, I can manage to give you examples if you want to see what rubber stamp assemblies. Oh, that's you're smart then. You're smart. You've just told that, and that's why.
I'm not looking for steakhouse.
I know you were saying
Okay, wait. Let's even go there. Steakhouse assembly.
But
what makes them more rubber stamp than what national assembly?
Let me finish your other aspect before I come back to your question.
Okay.
So, but one of the things I think he highlighted here is that of oversight function, which for me was almost totally lost at the last. I didn't see national assemblymen actually doing and reporting as it were. In the whole of the so-called, if you watch the 8th National Assembly and you find disagreements they had, I didn't see issues